you want to be number one, I'm sorry, boy, that's been done. But if you got the itches for a sack of riches, don't matter how avaricious, I'm the man that could grant your wishes.
Welcome everybody to Back in My Day with a not so stereotypical millennials. We'll be talking everything from the 90s and today, I think is today what today's episode is going to be. So we're going to go back 25 years to our 1996 summer movie wager that we recorded a few weeks ago and give you the results. Yeah, we're going to have the results. And then we're going to talk some Loki. So we're 3-4 episodes in at the time of this recording. So we're going to get that discussion out there as well. Before we do that, though, this week I'm joined by
Michael R. Power,
Ian Walter.
Gentlemen, let's jump right in. Let's jump right in. We got lots to talk about. So Mike has compiled the results. We, myself, Mike, and Ian ranked the summer movies of 1996 from the long weekend of May in North America to the long weekend of September in North America.
And what a crazy summer it was.
It was crazy, right? Yeah, so many action movies, I think, was one thing, and a couple of surprising picks, I guess we can go through. So Mike compiled the results and did the tally. So Mike has the results. I don't know them, Ian. I don't know if you know the results of how we did or not, but
No.
But there we go. So Mike's got the power in his hands.
I have the results. Do you want me
to? Was
to?
number one, right?
Yeah. Do you want me to?
It was actually off the charts. It did so well that it was a past number one.
It revitalized Arnold's career. For sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you want me to quickly rattle off what our lists were, like super fast?
Let's do that, and then what
Okay.
we'll do is we'll see what Rich thinks about our list, and then we'll get to the results.
So the goal is to rank the performance of all the movies from 1 to 10 by box office dollars. You get 10 points if you get it perfectly correct. So if you get the number 2, spot number 2, you get 10 points. If you're 1 spot off, you get 7 points. And if you're 2 spots off, you get 5. If you're 3 spots off, you get 3. And if it's a wild card and it's in the top 10, you get 1 point. And if you nail number 1 or number 10, it's worth 13 points. So that's how the scoring works. So my list went like this. Number 1, Independence Day. Number 2, Mission Impossible. 3, Nutty Professor. 4, The Rock. 5, Tin Cup. 6, Striptease. 7, A Time to Kill. 8, Eraser. 9, Hunchback of Notre Dame. 10, Dragonheart. And wild cards were Cable Guy, Harriet the Spy, and The Phantom. Dave's list was Independence Day, Mission Impossible, The Rock, The Nutty Professor, Striptease, A Time to Kill, Dragonheart, Eraser, Cable Guy, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Multiplicity as a wild card, Escape from LA as a wild card, and Kingpin as a wild card. And
I think Dave's got this actually. Now that I think
I'm not going to reveal any spoilers, but Ian's list was Independence Day, so that's the theme, Eraser, The Rock, Mission Impossible, The Nutty Professor. So a lot of us had those in their top 5. Multiplicity at number 6, The Fan at number 7, Tin Cup at number 8, Dragonheart at number 9, and The Phantom at number 10, with Chain Reaction, Striptease, and First Kid as his wild cards. All right, so I have scored.
should have gone with Shazam.
Our 3 lists.
Should have gone with Shazam. Rich, what do you think? What do you think out
movies.
of all those? Because there's a lot that are shared, at least, especially in like the top 5 or whatever. What do you think? You think we're gonna like be close? I don't know. I think we're gonna be tight, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very close. I think anyone that has The Rock in the top 3 will be the winner. That's my favorite. So.
Dave and Ian both had Rock at number 3.
At number 3? Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think the best way to do this, looking at the results, is to start at the top, because I think the top is most predictable and the bottom is most unpredictable. I think the bottom 5 movies is where it really separates us.
Oh, okay. All right. So, have at it, Mike. Let's go.
The very first movie, the movie that came number 1 that summer. By the way, the list is adjusted to go from the May long weekend to summer long weekend. So it doesn't include Twister, because technically that came out. Even though Twister did make the top 10, we did not include that in our rankings.
Because it was like early May, I think, or something.
And it would have been up there. It was like in the top 3. But the first movie in the summer of 1996 that topped the box office was, no surprise, Independence Day. We all picked that.
All
So
right.
we all got 13 points. The next movie, the second movie was Mission Impossible.
Woo!
The Mission Impossible. Me and Dave both nailed it. It got 10
Yeah.
points. Ian
Nice.
had it at 4.
Okay, that's close. Yeah.
And number 3, The Rock. Dave
Yeah.
nailed that one. So Dave has all 3 in the right
Nice.
spot. The first 3.
Something about The Rock, like Rich said, something about The Rock was like what everyone was talking about. I don't know.
Listen,
Yeah.
you got Nick Cage in his prime.
Yeah.
You got good old Sean Connery, and then Ed Harris is the bad guy. What more can you want?
It's so true.
All
right?
directed by Michael Bay.
Yes.
It's a bigger hit than I remember. I thought it was more of a cult classic. I had it
Such
at
a
4.
great movie.
But
Yeah,
It
was
a
is.
really big
It
hit.
is good
What
for
a
all
smash.
for all the craziness that it is. It is good.
Yeah,
I
so
think-
Ian and Dave nailed that. I was 1 off. I had it at 4.
At 4.
So,
Okay.
so number 4 is The Nutty Professor, which
Yeah.
again Dave nailed. He had it at 4. He's got the top 4 perfect. I was 1 off. I had it at 3, and Ian was 1 off. He had it at 5. So Dave has the highest score you could possibly get at this point in the game. He has nailed the top 4 movies.
All
Pretty
right.
impressive.
That's luck, man. It's all luck. I'd like to give myself some skill points, but I don't have them.
Okay. Okay. Next is a movie though. This is where me and Ian start to get some points because it's a movie that's not on Dave's list, and that's A Time to Kill, number 5.
Oh no, I have it.
It's on Dave.
I have it.
Oh,
at
it's on
6.
Dave's. Oh,
So he's still crushing it.
so he's still crushing it. Okay. Ian didn't have it on his list,
I've been erased.
so I had it at 7.
You've been erased by John Grisham. So
Yes,
Mike,
sorry.
did you have it right at 5?
No, I had it at 7. So you actually got more points
I had it at 6.
than me for that one. Yeah.
That was like the parents' movie of the year. Like that's what everyone's parents wanted to see and saw, from what I remember. That's why I put it up there. It
So
was the adult movie.
So Time to Kill. Sorry, Dave, you did have on the list. I'm sorry, you did get 7 points for that. I was looking at Ian's list for a second. And number 6 that year was a movie that actually none of us had on our list,
Oh,
and that's Phenomenon. Do you remember that movie?
Oh.
I think it was-
yeah.
Val Kilmer,
Yeah, I think is that who it was? Yeah.
or was it John Travolta?
Oh, I think it was Travolta. I think you're right.
That wasn't the Muppet song?
Something like a phenomenon, huh?
Oh yeah, I do remember that movie. It was like was he an angel or something? Is that what I'm remembering? I don't know if that's right.
I don't know. That was Michael, I think. But
That
anyways,
was Michael. Yeah.
Oh.
All right, so Phenomenon, none of us had. And then number 7, here's where Eraser appears in the list. So Ian gets 3 points for putting that second. Dave and I both had it 8, so we were only 1 off. So we actually got a decent amount of points for that.
Okay, nice.
Number 8 was Hunchback.
Wow, it was
Dave
8.
and I had that on our list.
Ah. You probably got more, right? Because I think I had it at
Yeah.
10.
I was 1 off. You had it
Yeah.
at 10. Number 9 was Cable Guy. Dave nailed that
What?
one.
No way! I actually
Yeah.
got that.
Oh, you
my-
crushed.
Wow.
I had that as a
96
wild
is your
card.
year, bro.
Holy, no kidding.
And then number 10 is a movie that none of us had on our list, Courage Under Fire.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. I think I don't know why I didn't put that anywhere. Wow. So Dragonheart wasn't on there, and neither was Striptease.
Yeah, so Dragonheart, which appears in all of our lists in the top 10, was not on there. Striptease, we all had it somewhere. Ian had it as a wild card. Wasn't on the top 10.
Wow.
And Tin Cup, actually, I had quite high at number 5, and Ian also had it on his list, and that wasn't in the top 10 either.
Yeah, I had Striptease at 5 and Dragonheart at 7. So like I thought those for sure were on there. Jeez.
Yep.
Yeah.
No Mr. Mom, no Fan 590.
No,
Yeah.
so I think people can guess by now by the results. But Dave crushed it. He got 72 points.
Yeah.
I came second with 57, and Ian came third with 38.
Nice.
And it's funny when we recorded, Ian, because when when we got to the top 5, I remember you saying, "I'm not sure about the 5 I just did, but this top 5, they all better be on the list." And you actually all your top 5 were on the list, but
Sure.
none of your bottom 5 made the top 10.
Oh, none? Oh,
Because you
man.
had Multiplicity, The Fan, Tin Cup, Dragonheart, and The Phantom, and none of them appeared in the top 10. Dragonheart was 11th, I think. If
It was 11?
Yeah, it was
Okay.
really close.
Yeah.
Because your own demographic, like the age you were, the movies you were seeing, that like kind of forms your bias, right? When you think about that stuff.
Sure
Like,
it does.
I was talking about The Phantom and all these movies that I remember seeing in that year, but
And The Phantom is like, I remember because when I was editing the episode and everything, I'm watching the trailers for these movies and stuff. I'm like, oh my God, this trailer is horrendous.
yeah.
I don't remember the movie being amazing or even really terrible. I don't really remember it that much, but maybe that's saying something.
But also, yeah, I went against my better judgment. I was gonna put Mission Impossible second, but then something told me like, oh, it didn't start making money until the sequel. So I put it a little further down.
I think Independence Day was like so far ahead of everybody else. I think I could be wrong, but
actually really hard to do when you do zero research. Like it's impressive that Dave actually nailed perfectly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and he had 2 that was only one off. So
it's called Google, Mike.
no, man,
no cheating, man.
The host had to put the list together.
Yeah, that's it.
Can I say 3 things? Sorry, I just want to say 3 things. Okay,
you can say 96 things.
I want to make 3 statements. Multiplicity, great movie. Thanks for putting it on your list, Ian. And Dave, I guess that was on your list. Amazing movie. I love that movie with Michael Keaton. It was just super great.
It was so fun.
Number 2, I'm surprised The Frighteners wasn't on there because that was a super cool movie for its time, I think. Peter Jackson, the director. And
Peter Jackson's version of Ghostbusters.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was really neat. It was kind of scary at the time, too, when you were a kid growing up, right? But you watch it now, it's kind of funny. But and my third comment is the Cable Guy, the director is Ben Stiller, which is very surprising.
Oh, yeah.
What?
I didn't even realize that. I was looking at some of the stuff on IMDb here, and I was like, Ben Stiller? Seriously? He directed this like 25 years ago? And yeah, he directed this movie.
Yeah.
No way. I did not know that at all.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah, so the only thing I have to add is if you put Twister in there, actually, it's number 2. So Twister did really well. I think the list we were looking at didn't include it, but it was number 2, and Cable Guy was number 10. In your actual list, but
because we're limited to movies that were released in that window, right?
Yeah, because it was released May 10th, so it just
okay. So we cut it off by a couple weeks, kind of thing. But otherwise,
If our listeners remember, we had Michael R. Power was the reigning champion, made us watch Big Trouble in Little China as our penalty, which is not the worst penalty in the world. And
no, it's really not.
Now I guess we got Dave, so you should probably just. After we have our discussion of 96 film, just pick one from 96 that we should all watch.
I'm going to pick something from 96, and let me just double check one thing because I did choose it just in case.
It's actually funny to look down at the list, like if we were close on some of them. Like Dragonheart was 12th, 11th on our list. After Dragonheart was a movie not even on our list, Jack. Remember that movie, Jack?
Wow. I almost put that in I almost put that in a Dark Horse thing too. Yeah, I remember that movie. I used to love that movie a lot. Like we watched that a lot when I was younger.
Well, and speaking of Ben Stiller, you don't go full,
Yeah.
It worked for.
You don't know Jack.
Yes.
And then Tin Cup was 14, so it was pretty close.
Okay.
13.
Yeah.
And then Matilda, and then Striptease all the way down to 16. So it actually didn't do very well. Yeah.
Matilda did better than it. Jesus.
Yeah.
I guess kids movie. Matilda's a little kids movie. I guess
we were way off with that. Multiplicity all the way down 25th.
Wow.
And The Fan 29th, and The Phantom 30th. Frighteners 32nd. So yeah, like a lot of good movies that didn't make a lot of money, but obviously we love them. Obviously they found their audience later. Wow, there's a movie called Toy Story that came 49.
No, re-release.
Oh, re-release. Okay.
I
thought it was a different Toy Story. I was like, what?
It's like the first movie, the first like digital animated movie that was a smash. So I'm sure they brought it out the next summer.
The next year, yeah.
Or maybe it was
would have been
still out. It was still
or it was still out because that happened.
That's
man.
just how much it made in the summer. Yeah,
movies that did well really stretched out and stuff. So okay, so my choice for a 1996 movie, that's exactly where I went with this, is a classic that I think we can all watch on streaming right now, which is good. So we don't have to go and spend $5 on a movie like this. But Boys, we're gonna watch Shaq, and we're gonna watch him as a genie. We're gonna watch Kazam, baby.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I'm glad I wasn't involved in this one.
Hang on, I'm contagious, outrageous, spontaneous. You can't contain this. I am Kazam.
Well, I'm really happy for you.
Where do you think you're going? Make your 3 wishes and I'm out of your face. Back in my box and out of this place.
Listen, Mr. Psychopathic Dork in the basement, I don't think you're ordering anybody.
You realize who I am? I'm your genie.
In that case, I wish I was as big as you, but not so stupid.
That's not a wish. That's an insult.
As if I just checked my list to see if it was going to be on there. I was like, nah.
We're watching Kazam.
We're watching the movie that came 28th that summer.
28. Okay. Okay. So it beat the Phantom. So it has to be good. Right?
Yeah, beat the Phantom.
So as far as I can tell, I'm pretty sure it's on Disney Plus, at least here in Canada. So I think we can watch it. If it's difficult to watch, we can figure something out, or we can watch something else. But right now, that's my choice. That's what I want us to watch. And then we can have a fun time not having a fun time watching it.
Yeah, that sounds like a night of drinking for back in my day.
I think so, man. I think so. That's exactly it.
And see what happens.
Yeah. We can see, because I think if it's on Disney Plus, most of their movies you can do a watch along with too. So we could try that out if it's on there, which would be kind of fun. So that's it. That's fun, man.
Amazing.
That's crazy. I can't believe some of those movies didn't make it. Something like Striptease wasn't even close. The fact that Dragonheart wasn't on there at all is surprising, even though it was close.
Well, the choice to look at that year in general, I mean, it's just insane how many blockbusters there were in that year.
Yeah.
Do you guys know the movie Courage Under Fire? Because it came 10th, and I had never even heard of it.
Yep.
I mean, I've heard
seen
the title, but I haven't seen it.
I've seen it, but it's been years.
That was the biggest surprise to me. I was like, and it beat all these other movies like Striptease and Dragonheart and Jack and Tin Cup. And it was not on my radar at all.
Yeah, it's oh man, Denzel's in it, right? I think. Yeah. I've seen that. Yeah, it's sort of like
Army officer.
I think it's
makes
like
a deadly mistake. Yeah.
Is it one of the Tony Scott?
One of those.
He's got 5 of them. Tony Scott with Denzel in it.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay, yeah.
I'm gonna check.
Let's see. I'm gonna check. Kazam is on Disney Plus, boys.
Awesome.
And you can do a group watch. Watch.
We'll be our first group watch. All right.
I'm adding it to my list right now as we speak. So there we go.
Awesome.
Oh my God, Shaq looks so tiny in it. Just in the screenshot, it looks like he weighs 200 pounds instead of 350 or whatever he is now. That's crazy. Okay, so that's our results. That's good, Mike. Thanks for putting it all together, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was sick. And by the way,
stuff.
Courage Under Fire was directed by Edward Zwick, not Tony Scott.
Oh, okay. So that is our 1996, 25 years back to the summer movie wager. That will be our 2021 version. And hopefully next year we'll be able to do a real one. I think that's where signs are pointing, which is great. Until that time, we're going to take a really quick break. We're going to talk about Loki. As of this recording, the 4th episode was just released. And we're going to talk about what we think about what's going on so far and where it's going to be in the last couple of episodes. So we'll take a quick break and talk Loki. All right, welcome back, everybody. It's time to talk some more Marvel because, of course, it is. If there's no Star Wars to talk about, we're going to have Ian's shirt with all the Marvel characters on it lead the way. So like I mentioned before, we're 4 episodes into Loki. I personally have only seen 3 right now. Couldn't quite squeeze it in today before we hit record, but the 3 of you guys have seen it. So I'm going to give my quick thoughts so far of how I see the series going and if I'm enjoying it or not. I think we talked about it briefly when the first episode came out. Did we talk about it? I think so, right? First episode, yeah. So it's been 2 since then, and I think like the uniqueness of the way that WandaVision was set up was great. You know, I think we all talked about how those first 2 to 3 episodes especially felt like something completely new and really set things up. But then to me, it went from like up there and then just started slowly not going down in quality necessarily, but I didn't find it as inventive as the show went on. Whereas I think Loki is doing that most of the way. And sure, there's less episodes, so there is less time for them to do that. So they don't need to worry about stretching things out as much. But I find the inventiveness around the idea of just the TVA and how it looks and the characters and how they're involved in it, to me, unless they really don't stick the landing, I still think this will probably be my favorite out of the Disney Plus shows that are out. Like I said when we were talking about the first episode, if I don't know, you can make fun of Owen Wilson as much as you want, but just throw him in with that kind of personality that he has and that character that he is, and man, I'll watch that shit all day. It's great. Like I love the way he plays that type of character. I think he steals the scenes every time he's in it. But you know, him and Loki going sort of quote unquote going at it when they're sort of quipping back and forth is great. Their chemistry is fantastic. Both the characters and the actors, and I think that really goes a long way. And then in the third episode, really the second episode, when you get the third episode and you get Lady Loki, as we could call her,
which you predicted.
What? Yeah, that's right. You did. That's right. You said there's going to be a female Loki, and it's going to be exactly. And I think she's cool. I think she's really cool. And I think the third episode was a showcase of the two of them sort of testing their wits against each other and probably tricking each other without us really knowing. Maybe that's what happened in the fourth episode, but I don't know. But overall, I really, really like it. Overall, I think it's great. It's a lot of fun. It's a little bit snarky. It's a little bit smart. And I just like the setting. You know, the TVA looks like it's from the 50s or something, but really it takes place in this really cool futuristic timeline, I guess you could call it, almost in its own unique timeline. So so for the first 3 episodes for me, I think this show's great. And I think it's probably going to be my favorite one out of the 3, unless something drastic happens in the next 3 episodes that I really dislike. So that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. Without any spoilers about it, it's that's where I'm at with it. And I'm really liking it. So,
and where would you see it going? Maybe
it's tricky because I don't know this. I don't really know like the background of the story a ton. Not that you really need to. Like, it's cool to just sort of find things out. Like even the whole WandaVision stuff, I didn't know a lot about. But I think the third episode is sort of a character episode. They take a break to sort of just spend time with those 2 characters. You get to know one and get to know the other a lot more too. I think they were tricking each other for 45 minutes, and I think that's going to show. I think it's going to look like they're butting heads against each other, but I think they're actually going to work together. And in some way, I think they both want the TVA to fall, but I think something or someone else is going to make that happen that works within the TVA, and then they're going to realize that they need it. Like the 2 Lokis, if you want to call them that, are going to realize that they need it, and then it's going to cause a bunch of splinters that are going to go off into the other movies or other series. Something like that.
Well, Dave, I don't think you need to watch the other 3 episodes then. I think you're done.
I think I got it, guys.
You already signed it and delivered.
And
that's
apparently
right.
Neither do you, so because I got it. So.
You got it. Okay, I'm done.
I think that's, I don't know, something like that. I don't know that it's a set way that it's going to happen or anything, but which I think is good. I think it's interesting that there's literally a bunch of different timelines and ways that it can go. So I think that's where I sit with it. And I really like the characters in it, honestly, is what it is. And to me, this is much more of a character show than any of the other ones were.
I agree. I think it's a character study of Loki, essentially, in all of his forms, and even in the comics and everything. Like it really dives deep on the, Tom Hiddleston's Loki, but then just Loki as a character in general.
Exactly. And what it means to be I love how a bunch of times they're poking fun at he's the god of mischief. It's like, what even is that? Like they're really sort of poking holes in something that you just kind of say, oh yeah, he's the god of this, or yeah, he can do this, or he can do that, and they're just like, what? You can do fireworks at your hand?
God of
like,
hammers?
Yeah, like who are you? What do you mean you're god of what? What are you talking about? You're smart, yeah, but so am I. It's just I like that they have fun with that. the character doesn't like just all of a sudden get mad and then now it's a fight. It's now it turns into a scene of wits back and forth kind of thing about that. So I like that. Okay, so that's my long ramble of what I feel like so far.
Great.
I have not seen the fourth. You guys can talk spoilers all you want. I will turn my microphone and my headphones, pop them out of my ear, and you guys can talk all you'd like about episode 4 of Loki. So I will leave the floor to you guys. Enjoy.
Sweet.
Thanks, big guy.
Yeah, I think we start with Rich, since we haven't heard any of Rich's opinions so far. So, Rich, you're 4 episodes in, right? You're 4 episodes in.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
All right. So, what do you think of it? What do you think of it so far? First 4 episodes.
Well, it's not bad. I mean, don't mean to bash Dave. I think it's because it's a Disney Plus feature. It really kind of shows that Disney feel to it. It does sort of feel, which is kind of nice, like those Avengers type of movies, like just the way that the videos are shot and everything else, and the cameras and stuff. It's a little light in terms of, I guess it's like a PG-13 type of show, so it's not super dark. So there's that aspect to it. I was going to mention about Dave's comment on Owen Wilson. I think he kind of brings a little bit of a comedy to the show a little bit. I like his character. I think he sort of is kind of replaying his role from Wedding Crashers as the marriage counselor, mediator type of person in there. I think it's
well casted.
Yeah, it's very similar to that kind of role, the way that he's playing against Loki in a way, and now they're kind of buddies and stuff. And speaking of the fourth one, and now he's gone, and then Loki's gone at the very end there. So,
did you stay around for the post credits? Because maybe they're not gone.
Well, I'm not saying they're gone, but they're not there in that timeline anymore. So
that was a crazy scene.
Yeah.
To be honest, that's the other thing is the post credits. It's extremely long. I think it's isn't it like 3-4 minutes after the show ends
before you get
yeah. So I kind of like, okay, here we go again. So I just exited, to be honest. But maybe I should have stuck around a little bit and watched that secret sauce at the end there.
Yeah,
but
go check that shit out.
There is a scene. It's very short, but
I bet
it's not. His story's not over yet.
But overall, it's pretty well done. I mean, the graphics are good. The acting's quite well done. The female Loki part of it is pretty interesting. And to be honest, on the 4th episode, I was like, when I was watching, I'm like, it's going to be interesting to see if these guys get together. I wanted them to get together because I wanted to see how messed up that would be, because technically they're the same person, and he's so vain that he would literally fuck himself. And
it's perfect.
I would like, and you know what? Like, imagine they had a baby. Like, what would that be like? Like,
no,
could that happen?
Crossing timelines.
Yeah, could that happen? Like having a child with yourself, and then what would that child?
Well, if there was a person
Loki?
who could do it, it's Loki.
Yeah, exactly. So that would be interesting. Let's.
And they comment on the show. Owen Wilson says like how messed up that is. You fall in love with yourself, like.
Yeah.
So that's funny. They do comment on that.
Yeah, so that was interesting.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
you're liking it.
Sounds like
you're liking it, but not as much as.
I'll watch episode 5. That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well,
Me too.
That's a win then. They got you.
That is a win. They got me.
All right. Now Ian and I, the Marvel nerds, are gonna geek out a bit. I think. What did you think of the? Let's just go like 1 to 4, like where we are now. What did you think of the ride?
For sure.
Since we talked
I'm having
last?
a blast, and I've been itching to talk about this since the first episode because I went back, rewatched it, especially watching the first 2 episodes, kind of seeing what you were saying before about how the TVA is most likely the thing that needs to be taken down. They're like an unnatural entity, this kind of thing. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, yes, I agree with that, but I also think there's an angle to it where it makes sense and still makes sense within the established MCU. And I think I kind of see where it could be heading. And it's kind of dangerous territory because you're the same situation with WandaVision. You with your knowledge of the comics, your like conspiracy theories, your desires of where you'd like it to go based on the comics is not necessarily what they have in mind. They're probably more tailored to like a focused individual story. But you can't help but wonder, and I'm wondering, we were wrong about WandaVision. Maybe we could be right this time around. Like I'm not going to let it impact the way I view or judge the show, but I still have that little piece of me that wants to see something really crazy happen.
Yeah, I hate when people have theories and then when the show doesn't do what their theory is, they dislike the show. Like that makes sense, right? Like,
and
do
I
you
think
want a show to be predictable? Like, no.
Yeah. And I think for the sake of discussion and podcasting, we can talk about our theories, as long as we're not like, my way or the highway, you know what I mean? So, but, going into that second episode, I definitely started to see the cracks in the TVA, and you start to see, wow, Loki he is bringing something to the table here. He's the one who figured out the apocalypse loophole. Yeah, and I think that's definitely something that it's interesting, especially when you follow through to what happened in the fourth episode. Like, there's something that caused a Nexus event, even if they weren't saved by the TVA, it was still gonna make an impact. So even though his theory was, no matter what apocalypse I go to, nothing's gonna change. That something about their connection on Lamentus One is not the same as every other apocalypse. So it's interesting. Anyway, so with the second episode. I think the thing I really dig about the show is at the end of each episode, we are not in the same place we started. It is definitely propelling forward. And I know we're only going to get about 6 of these episodes, but it does feel like the stakes are slowly, like steadily increasing. And we're kind of, the end of episode 3 was, end of the world type stuff. And now we're even more so what the hell's going to happen with all this stuff. So I liked a lot of the stuff with the TVA, with Mobius. I thought, as much as I loved Lamentus One and that whole episode between the two Lokis, the one thing that was missing was Owen Wilson in episode 3. So
all around, I think we all agree he's like one of the best parts of the show.
And he's making a great return. And now the thing was, when that happens, and he gets, he vanishes, he gets erased. It's like, boom, he's erased. You have to wonder, like, is that really it for Mobius? Because if we see what happened in the teaser in the mid-credit scene, we don't know. Like, I'm assuming we haven't seen the last of Mobius.
Same.
Right? Because, but I don't know. So we're kind of heading into like episode 2, episode 3 territory. I want to kind of get your thoughts on those ones before we talk about episode 4.
Yeah. So my original theories about how the TVA was going to be the thing that was the villain or the bad guy, I think are kind of right. But I think I was wrong the way when I said that. They would take down TVA. That would lead to the multiverses. I guess we know now there are multiverses that exist. I still have a hard time wrapping my head around the one timeline. How many multiverses are there? Like, to me, one timeline means one universe. So I don't know if they're going to explain that. And the whole logic behind the one timeline and everything didn't seem to jive with what our thoughts were of how time travel worked and how multiverses worked coming out of Endgame, right? So maybe they are going to explain that properly, or wrap it all up for someone like me who's really like digging into that, looking into something, thinking, how does this all make sense?
Yeah,
I really want it to all make sense. I don't want this to be anything like any plot holes or any loopholes for fans to kind of like dig on.
I think we have enough goodwill with Feige to know that whether we like the explanation or not, it will get explained. But I do think that if my wildest theory were to happen, it's definitely a cool way, and I'll tease ahead to that because I'm going to mention where I think they could make it work with the way they've set it up, even in Endgame and now in Loki.
Nice.
So
actually, I was probably. Oh, go on. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, like, I was wondering if it was going to be like Monster of the Week type stuff. It seems more like procedural, or at least in the first 2 episodes, it was like a procedural, like, detective type show. And then we kind of had this, people calling it maybe filler or bottle episode. I felt it was just kind of like its own standalone experience with the 2 Lokis kind of figuring out one another on Lamentus One. And then now we're back into kind of, we're circling back to this idea of the TVA's involvement, but then clearly by the end of episode 4, we know that it's all a facade. We're looking at like a Wizard of Oz type scenario.
Right. So, yeah, I like that. I was probably the coldest on the first episode of the 3 of us after we watched it. Like, I know Dave says he loves the whole TVA and how they're like this bureaucrat organization from the 50s, but that's actually kind of, I don't know, like unoriginal to me. Like, I've seen that before in a bunch of things. So I wasn't too not too impressed, but just I've seen that before. And then the whole them having the one timeline, I was kind of like, I don't really like that. But now that I see that it's kind of like, that's not really the truth. I think there's more to it. I think it's going to be explained. It's going to fit into the way we think the way the MCU was explained, and it's going to make sense. You said we trust Feige, so yeah, I'm in for it. I'm enjoying the ride. I'm really liking how, like you said, the status quo has changed for every episode, and then I really love Lady Loki, Sophie, I think her name is, or
Sylvie. Yeah,
Sylvie.
She's good.
And I like how they've so it's a character in the comics called the Enchantress.
Yes,
who's a bad guy, like teams up with Loki a lot. As a bad guy in Asgard.
Yeah, and one of the
they've
newest
combined
iterations of her was a creation or a part. Like Loki had a shared history with her. So
so they have combined, and Lady Loki's also a character from the comics. So they've like combined the two characters in the MCU. So she is the Enchantress, but she's also Lady Loki. So I think that's cool. I think that's a cool spin on it.
Spoiler for Rich, but that last shot is essentially they're paying homage to the different popular versions of Loki throughout the comic.
Yes, throughout the comic.
And so we have an MCU version of each one of those characters.
Yeah, and so that last shot was where I'm really like, okay, now it's TVA is all a facade. There are many multiverses. Like the one timeline thing. I'm waiting to see now what the explanation is going to be, and I think it's going to be. I hope it's interesting. I'm really liking the acting and the graphics and everything. So yeah, I'm in for it, man. I like it. It's. I'm gonna have to wait till the ending to see where it fits in my ratings, but
it is climbing though. It's steadily.
It's climbing. Yeah, it could have a really really good finale, and I'm waiting for, just seeing the Loki in the comic accurate costume, Richard E. Grant. That enough for me is like put this show on the top. Like he's going to be in the next episode.
Like I heard like this, I'd almost forgotten. Like I heard a rumor that Richard E. Grant was in that, but I never once thought like, oh, how's he going to factor in? Then you just see him pop up, and you're like, oh my god!
It looks so ridiculous. You understand why they kind of adjust the costumes a little bit, but the fact that we get it.
But of the awesome variants and versions of Loki that I'm familiar with from the comics, he would be the one I believe that they would refer to as King Loki, the one that actually becomes king of Asgard.
Right.
I think.
So, yeah. I want to say for my theories, I still think I don't know who's pulling the strings of TVA. I had someone on Twitter say Kang the Conqueror.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm headed.
And I'm wondering what his angle is, and I really have no idea. So I love that about the show. I love that in episode 4, they've already sort of taken down the TVA and the Timekeepers, and which is what I predicted was going to happen like to the end. And now I have 2 whole episodes coming up, whereas like I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm ready to be surprised. Like I like that about the show, so it's not as predictable as I thought it was going to be. So yeah, I'm excited for it. So Rich, any predictions on where you think it's going to go? Any more thoughts?
I think Owen Wilson's not done. I think his character is going to pop back in. I think he got evaporated too quickly, and then Loki, male Loki at the end there, again same thing. He'll find his way somewhere else. He keeps saying like, yeah, we always lose, but we always come back somehow. Like it never dies. So I think that's going to play a part. And I think the Sylvie there, she's going to do something with the I don't know, you want to call her the judge or whoever the case that woman is.
Right. Find the truth behind who's pulling the strings, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The Wizard of Oz is the perfect analogy.
Okay,
maybe
so
it's
she's
her.
Ravonna. That's her name, Ravonna.
Ravonna,
that's going to play a piece too.
Maybe they'll be able to reverse everything that just happened, essentially, and kind of go back to a.
Yeah, I think we're going to end in a spot that's really, really, really establish the fact that there's multiverses. I think I still think that's where it's going to end. You know, I said when the show started, I kind of theorized based on the Miss Minutes clip that like there was many multiverses. They fought. It's been consolidated down to one universe by the TVA. I guess that's not true. I guess there still is many multiverses, and they're just policing them all kind of at the same time.
Yeah.
Anyways, Ian, I want to hear your theories.
Yeah, I'm
where the next 2 episodes are going to go.
Because right or wrong, I think it's pretty wild, and if they go there, it's going to change the MCU for sure. But right before I do that, I will say that. Okay, I'll just say it. So, Kang the Conqueror. That's sort of the tease here. And the reason for that is Ravonna. Ravonna is a known lover of, like, they were partners in the comics. So it was Ravonna and Kang. And now we have Kang the Conqueror, who, without really knowing too much, I never read that many Fantastic Four, but we know he's a Fantastic Four villain. We know we're going to be heading there. And I always thought it was an interesting choice. There's a rumor that Kang the Conqueror is chosen for the villain of Quantum Mania, which is Peyton Reed's third film for Ant-Man and the Wasp. So I always thought, oh, isn't that a Fantastic Four villain? So it sounds like they're setting him up to be like an overarching villain in the MCU.
Yeah, like the next Thanos kind of.
And you would think it would be weird if he's for sure going to be the villain in Quantum Mania, that they would set him up in this series. So maybe it's not going to be a full-on reveal, but a tease at the end towards his involvement. But either way, I think he will be involved in this, because it's too much like playing with time. Like, it's if you're going to have Kang in Phase 4 and he's not having anything to do with the TVA, that's kind of weird, right? So
that's what he does in the comics, right? He's the villain that plays with the time and the time stream, and it's a very like unkept secret that Jonathan Majors, who is a really good actor, is playing Kang the Conqueror in the MCU, right? And he's cast in the Ant-Man movie. So yeah. Those
and
theories
with the whole bureaucracy of the TVA, you know that they've been setting up Ravonna to have clearly knowing more than what's going on. You know that she's clearly letting, like, more than what she's letting on. So
she's gaslighting Mobius for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a cool piece to it too, that you know that Mobius is really kind of, he's just drinking the Kool-Aid. Like he's along, like he's diving in, and he's a part of this thing, but now, even though he has been reset or whatever you want to call it, he's woke to the fact that it's all a sham. And so with that, I think that what we're looking at, and this is where it kind of gets crazy with the timeline, but I think that if it is Kang, let's say Kang is the ultimate bad, whether or not he's revealed in the end of this series or it teases to being involved and then he's revealed later on, let's just say Kang's goal is to conquer the timeline. Okay, so if he has found an alternate or parallel timeline to the MCU or the MCU itself, in which he is the conqueror, the ultimate ruler of that timeline, then he's going to do everything in his power to protect that timeline. And I think that's where the TVA comes in. He's set up this elaborate sort of Wizard of Oz type scheme and Ravonna is involved too, helping make sure that everyone is on board. But they're just capturing variants, wiping their memory, and then making them play their part. You know, Loki made the comment, I think it was in episode 1, where he said, this is a circus and you clowns are playing your part to perfection, right? So I think definitely you see that the timekeepers are a facade. They're just like androids that are being told
so
what
every
to do.
Variant is basically a threat to him as conqueror, and he can see the whole timeline. He can see when someone is heading to a path that might challenge his dominance, and he just wipes them out, like when they were kids or before they did anything.
And to that point, like if existence or reality is infinite and the multiverse is real, maybe his scope, he's just focused on the stream in which he's the king or the conqueror. You know what I mean? So in that sense, and if the MCU is parallel to that, we go from Endgame to an alternate 2012, and that's where Loki, in that reality, is affected by the TVA, and therefore, if it's a single time stream in that reality, maybe it's still running parallel with the MCU, but maybe there's more than what Kang can see going on in the greater multiverse, or it's like you said, where it's heading on one path and then now it's about to break off into a million pieces, which could very well be the case.
Yeah.
It
gets really complicated. It gets really complicated. It's hard to nail these sort of time travel, multi-universe stories down and make them make sense to people. So if anyone can do it, it's Feige. But I'm interested to see what's going to happen. So they do it in the comics, right? So
the point is, if they are doing a Kang the Conqueror arc and he's involved in the main MCU timeline, then it's going to be him trying to conquer the timeline. And maybe it was a multiverse at one point that he's now like kind of channeled into one, like Miss Minute said, like it was like running wild with 6 different, it looked like each Infinity Stone had its own like multiverse, and then there was a huge multiversal war, and now like it looks like maybe Kang came out on top and he's been like trying to keep it together.
Right, because the
then.
fact that like multiverses by their nature are like infinite, because like there's infinite decisions that any one person can make, and they all would make multiple time streams and lead to new universes. So maybe if he's conquered, maybe he's determined that there's like a fixed set of multiverses, and he's keeping them all on one path, and no more multiverses can exist besides like whatever. It could be a million, or it could be a really high number, but however many there are, he's keeping them all on one track, and he's not letting any more branch off, right? So that could be it. That would make sense.
And Mobius, he talks about it. It's not any one. It's more like a faith thing. Like let's be honest, the TVA is a little bit of an allegory to religion, right? So it's like you're kind of you believe as much as you want about it, and in terms of like how time and space work, and then we don't know. No one knows all the answers, but the point is, if someone like Kang or someone can see ahead and then they know everything that's going to happen, basically what it comes down to is human beings, or like human beings expanding out to the rest of the universe, are predictable, right? So history repeats itself. They like, if you're Loki, you're guaranteed to do certain things along your path. So it's when it comes to things like, I thought it was an interesting choice for, it was actually Hulk in Endgame who smashed Tony and release the Tesseract, because he is one of the most unpredictable beings in the universe, right? So it's actually like something where overall there's a trajectory, but little kind of variant things can happen along the way, and then there's someone like some greater power trying to keep that all together because they have an agenda. And in this case, in my theory, it would be Kang, who has an agenda to keep the timeline in which he is the conqueror intact.
Cool. All right, I dig that. I think you've gone to something there. All right, so I guess Dave's gone. Rich, any thoughts about this whole in-depth conversation we're having?
No, you know what? I think these series, they're pretty smart in the way that they do this multiverse thing, because really they've set themselves up to go on and on and on forever. Yes, essentially, they can make any which way thing they want. They can use any actor for any one hero,
and any actor that wants to come back and do his role is never
because
really
it's a multiverse. So they've kind of set themselves up that way, and I just wanted to kind of throw that out there.
That's a good point.
But no, I think it's going to be, it's interesting because there's no finite way that this has to end, or any of the shows have to end, because it could end anyway, because it doesn't have to end there. The show ends and all of a sudden there's for instance Loki 2, and then it's something completely different.
Yeah, I'll say in the comics, it's like I've seen it before in the comics, and it could get really unruly and messy if you get into the world where there's like multiple universes, and it's hard to make an argument that any one thing kind of matters, because it's like, well, Thanos wins in 14 million universes, and we beat him in one. Like, what are all those other 14 million universes with those millions of people? And I think what they're going to do in the MCU, if they're smart, is like they'll introduce the multiverse, and they'll have a few movies where Kang is the bad guy, and they'll have the Doctor Strange and the Ant-Man movie, maybe Fantastic Four, where all the multiverses are clashing and they're coming in and out with one another, and it's all this crazy multiverse of madness stuff. But then they'll find a way to then streamline it and separate the universes again, where it's like they can no longer interact, and then you have the straight line MCU. And then you can just make things kind of like matter more, but then you can also jump into the other universes and do standalone movies, but they just don't interact with each other, because it gets really crazy when you have all these different versions of all the characters all the time. Yeah. So I think they'll do it for a few movies, and then they'll like kind of like find a way where like all the universes are like separated.
Something happens, and now every universe is on their separate course.
Yeah, on their separate own timeline with no one controlling it.
That's right. Yeah.
I could see them having like a sort of a big overarching event, or like a crossover event like you see in the comics for each planned phase. And this one just happens to be the one that deals with like time and multiverses and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So when we head into phase 5, like you said, they're going to have a way to wrap it up like they did with Endgame, and then move forward in a more grounded kind of state. Yeah. But when like, it was a great point Rich made, because they are setting up these kind of replacements, because no one actor is going to stay in the MCU forever. So when Tom Hiddleston retires, which probably pretty soon, you have Sophia DiMartino now who could step in as a female Loki, who's a great replacement, you know. So
Yeah,
and a good cool character in her own right too. So I mean that there's lots of exciting stuff with what they're doing. I think that Loki is definitely I'm more excited, even though I really liked Falcon and Winter Soldier, I am more excited to see where this ends up because it's going to have more of an impact, like I said, on the MCU. And to that point, you know, you have WandaVision clearly set up Scarlet Witch's character for her involvement in Multiverse of Madness. And then you have Michael Waldron, who's the head writer on Loki, who's writing Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So you just have a lot of these pieces coming together. You're going to have Scarlet Witch doing her crazy stuff. Now you have like Doctor Strange, and then like whatever is happening with the timeline here is breaking the multiverse wide open. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
And Spider-Man coming out in December. We can't forget about that. No Way Home.
Oh, and that's going to touch on the multiverse too. All right, so I think we went really, really far in depth. That was awesome. I'm going to look forward to circling back with you guys. I'm just looking forward to circling back after Loki's done, because I think you're right. I think the potential of the series makes it could possibly be the best one, and it's exciting actually. I'm glad we did it after this 4th episode. And
I'm going to try over the next 2 weeks to read through Agent of Asgard, which is a Loki storyline, because it's not like it. I don't think they ever go one-to-one with these comic stories. They stick with what they've established in the MCU, but what you can have is like these cool moments that kind of mimic what happens in the comics.
Yeah.
And that's the best part.
Sweet. All right, man. So Ian and Rich, thanks for joining us this week. Dave's not here, so I'll wrap things up. And you can find us on social media at Day Back In. The podcast is called Back in My Day. Find it on any podcast app you choose. Rank, review, subscribe. It all helps. And thanks a lot. See you next week. Get vaccinated.
Excelsior.
How do we signal Dave to come back and end this?
Here with this, the menu.
He's watching. He's just watching us.
There you go.
The whole time.
I love how the sun went down while we were podcasting.
Yeah, you got dark.
Hey, question, guys. At the very end of the show, are these all Lokis, and then there's the Thor there, the Black Thor?
No, that's
a Black Loki.
That's a Black Loki.
With the hammer.
But it's a variant where he was the one who was like Thor.
Oh, okay. And what about this one who's a fucking old man that's wearing...
That's Richard E. Grant.
That's Richard E. Grant, and he's like old King Loki.
Okay.
That's what Loki looks like in like the original comics, right?
Oh,
like goofy, yellow, curly.
Right. Yeah.
So Sam was like, "Oh, like what's with this goofy comic?" And I was like, "Do you remember WandaVision when they had the Halloween episode? Like that was the same thing." I was like,
okay, so it's almost like
most ridiculous version of their comic.
Because if you look at him, really, without the cape, the golden cape, and the golden underwear, and the little bit of the golden part on, like the front part, he looks like fucking Kermit the Frog. Kermit the Frog has that exact. Like necklace thing that's like that little spiky ring around his neck, and he's all covered in green. That's Kermit the Frog.
So funny.
Look at it. Look up Kermit the Frog. You'll see what I'm talking about.
I'm gonna look at the picture right now. All right, so that was good, guys. Thanks for coming. That was fun.
That was fun. I was like, I've been dying to talk about like episode 2, 3, 4, but then like all I had in my head was like a crazy Kang theory. I was like, I can't talk about anything else.
I think that that's out there, and I think it's kind of right, but I think it makes sense. I think it has to be Kang. I don't know. Maybe it could be that Immortus guy. That's the only other thing I'm thinking.
Yeah. Well, the thing about King, like, it goes back to where like he was like King Tut in the past because he can travel the timeline, so he can conquer at various points in time, right? So I mean, like, I think he's trying to preserve the one where at the end of it all, he's the big, the big bad.
I'll message Dave. I don't know. I hope, like, does he have to come back? How does he preserve the recording?
Preserve the sacred timeline.
Preserve the sacred recording.
The sacred podcast recording.